members of the council, Mayor Gunter. I'm Frank Saunders, local property owner and downtown business person. I'm here on behalf of myself as a downtown owner and the Salinas City Center to voice opposition to the temporary homeless shelter being set up at 111 West Alisal Street. I don't know how a project of this nature with incredible impacts to the downtown was approved without process. This is going to be a huge step back in our efforts to provide a clean and safe environment in the downtown. The homeless have created a huge mess in Chinatown, and now they will be expanding their activities to the Salinas City Center. The visitors to and the businesses of downtown will be subjected to a lot of negative activity from the mentally ill, as well as criminals who seem to blend into this homeless group. I want to make it crystal clear that we are totally opposed to the shelter in the downtown. That being said, we're asking the city to step up patrols in the downtown and to commit to responding immediately to the services called by our security people. We are asking for 24-hour security, both in and around the facility. We are asking the security to move the homeless out of the area during business hours to minimize the effects on the downtown businesses. Last week, one of our security officers was threatened with a knife. We are not opposed to helping the homeless. I repeat, we are not opposed to helping them. But we are opposed to locating more services in the downtown. We support the long-term shelter for Natividad and Laurel. There is a reason why Salinas has seen a 52% increase in homeless activity in the last 2 years. This isn't true in the other cities of the county. So I have to say that Salinas is providing too many services. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Thank you.
Lonnie Crawford, not to seem meaningless or cruel, but we got to do something about the homeless. Every exit you get out, people coming into this town, all they see is trash. Everywhere they go. Everything we do is trash. The only area in this town that is not trash is South Salinas because people won't put up with it. We're spending millions of dollars time you figure the ambulance services. Well, if you would give it to the fire department and police, let them do their job. If you don't take care of them, you say you're in a crunch for money. We're going to have people working for us that we don't want working for us because all the good people is going to go where they're getting paid. We're spending tons of money, and the more you give, the more you're going to get. We're going to double our rate of homeless. Oh, let's go to Salinas, man. They take great care of us. They give us everything. And everybody beats around the bush. 97%, 98% of those people, a minimum, has chose that lifestyle. Because you choose a lifestyle doesn't mean I have to. And we don't owe people that chooses a lifestyle something for nothing. Let's give the money to the police that protects us and the fire department who runs in our burning house instead of people that does nothing for us but drain our society. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Name is Eric Peterson. The other day I had the chance to talk to the two brothers who are trying to reopen the gas station at Monterey and I guess it's Gabalin. And I certainly don't represent them, but they made some comments about the permit process. I've been coming here for a few decades, and I've heard every few years how the permit process is fixed. I guess we're not quite there yet. But at least, they said they should be open in a month and a half, so we'll have a new business to make up partially for the businesses on Main Street that are closing. One of the impediments to going to businesses here is we still have the dust cloud creators instead of Hope Services. I've seen saw a situation one day where I had to wait for a dust cloud to settle before I could get to a restaurant. On the other side of the dust cloud, somebody was closing the doors of that place to keep the dust outside. I've heard about a car that had to be washed because of them. The sooner we can bring back Hope Services, the better. It just goes to show the folks who got rid of Hope Services make a big deal about how they're property owners, and as if that's a positive. It just goes to show that property owners are also capable of making really dumb decisions. And there was some comments earlier about the homeless and a Monterey County project and a complaint that they were out, there was no process. There was process. It was in Monterey County. I was there. And it just goes to show that sometimes people need to pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Steve Lundeen. I'm the pastor of First United Methodist Church, and some of my best friends are homeless. And I can't think of anyone who is choosing that lifestyle. And to suggest such a thing is cruel. Now, tell that to the woman who's been assaulted in her tent and raped. Tell that to the mentally ill. Tell that to the addicted. We tend to blame and assault with our words the most vulnerable. Simply removing them from an area does not contribute to any solution at all. I would like to continue working with everybody, especially in the downtown neighborhood, to make as safe a neighborhood as possible for everybody, including those who don't have a place to lay their heads at night. I hope we can do that.
Thank you, Pastor.
Very nice. Hi, Wes White, Salinas resident, president of Salinas Homeless Union. Those comments earlier with just trying to get rid of everybody downtown just because they're too poor, that's just open discrimination is what that is, and we're supposed to be past that by now, you know? We did the Civil Rights Act 50 years ago. We're still struggling with this question, you know, who do I choose to value? And it's disappointing. You did this with 321 North Main. You blocked it. I think you listened to this attitude, this pervasive attitude of just not in my town, not in my backyard. And I'm glad that you changed your mind for the Public Defender's Office. And I hope we keep on going in this direction to where we're not suffocating the spirit of the law or suffocating the, we make a letter of the law and we suffocate the spirit of the law by what we do in our intentions. So we actually have to practice what we preach and follow through and have good intentions. If we don't want to help people, that's fine. You don't have to do that. But at least stop hurting people and putting these isms, all this dirty talk, because you look behind closed doors, you look inside every people's family, how much dysfunction there is and how many people litter and all these things that supposedly they're on the bottom rung and that's how they're reaching bottom and that's how we're going to get better. But it's actually how we treat each other. And we need to treat each other better. We need to actually be more thoughtful and generous. We have so much stuff in this world. We have plenty to share. There's plenty of room in this world for everybody. We need to stop destroying the world. That's what we need to stop doing.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name's Al Espindola, and I'm a messenger tonight, this evening, and for Tony, Steve, and the mayor. Some of the business owners on the Old Town are having some serious concerns about the planters not having any water. The plants are dying and the shrubs are dying. And also the service down there it needs to be upgraded. They were happy with those that were providing the service, Hope Services, and now they have somebody else doing it and they're not happy with it. The person that I talked to, she said she couldn't be here because she had to work during the council meetings. But I said, well, I'll carry the message and see how far it goes. But she said that she had talked to Tony, Steve, and the mayor. So I hope that maybe with putting our heads together, you can come up with a solution to make everybody happy, including the property owners. Thank you.
459. Councilmember.
Yeah, this was
Shea?
for comment. I've been in close contact with the Salinas City Center Improvement Association, and I want to use this opportunity to offer some comments. And if you'll allow public comment on this, I think it might be valuable. If
I have
there's
about 9 people that wanted to comment on this.
Okay,
Go right
so then
ahead, sir.
allow me to share a few things. First and foremost, with respect to this specific item, I can assure my council members that as legal has advised us, and certainly to members of the public, it's a lot cleaner and it will allow us as a city to do our job if this ordinance can move forward as a whole, without any carve-outs or exceptions. Now, we may, during public comment, hear difference to that, and I'm sure SCCIA has the best and brightest legal team that's brought forward their request for specifics that could be amended to what's before us. But I also want to use this opportunity to share a few things. This important district is in place thanks to property owners that are volunteering their time to make our downtown better. And there's been tremendous focus on the negatives, on what is lacking in this district. And I just want to assure the public that the city and the district is working as hard as it can to see to it that the right vendors and the right folks are in place to keep the place cleaner and safer and better than what would normally be expected with just the city services. And I don't want to downplay just the city services. Remember, when this district was put in place, this is to supplement, not to supplant, what already is expected to be safe and looking good in downtown. Really, the property owners and the city took the steps to put in place this improvement association so that it could really be something special. I mean, think of something above and beyond what would just normally be a street with some shops and some places to eat along it. And that's ultimately the vision. Tremendous planning. I mean, this council, this city has put hundreds of thousands of dollars into really preparing and investing for something that our children and grandchildren will enjoy that's above and beyond, again, just a street. Now, again, we can focus on the bad, and we need to. If the service isn't there, if there's excess trash, litter, something that's broken, we want to hear about it. And I have to single out the manager of the district who responds very fast to texts, emails, smoke signals, Ken Steen. He's available, and his team of folks that help him are available, again, in supplementing what already is the city's efforts to keep things clean and safe. To the city and to the city council members, there's a bunch of stuff that we're working on. Tomorrow there will be an SCCI meeting that I'm attending. And trust me, there's a long list of demands that go above and beyond just keeping things clean. Specifically, increases in security. Like many of the public would share that we need greater police enforcement and presence. This district really, really needs it and wants it and deserves it. So a status report is coming with regards to not just our department's ability to work with the private security that the district's hired, but efforts that we can make to, again, keep it safer. There's also a lot of interest in, again, as this ordinance attempts reaching out and addressing homelessness, panhandling and what have you. And I know it's complex. We don't have the solutions. The county doesn't have the solutions. But true, this city needs to continue to be on top of it at all levels. I guess the last thing I'll say is we've agreed on a date for a community meeting right in here on the 11th. There's an invitation to the city to find the appropriate staff to speak to the plans. Not just the plans coming via Measure X, the 12 million in improvements to the streetscaping and such, but I think also to the housing, homelessness, and security issues. And I have confirmed with SCCIA that they'll be here present to share in their efforts. So I guess just in closing, this is a good opportunity to bring it up. We're doing our best as a city, and the SCCIA is doing their best as well. The public is invited to offer feedback, and I'm sure we'll hear some of it tonight. And I'll offer myself. Continue to call me. Send me a text. I'm available. I'm happy to be a partner in this. But to the folks that are focusing on the terror and the terrible and everything that's just not right, I really encourage the public to look at what is working, and to the future, because this city in another 18 months is going to make the largest investment in our downtown district of public dollars that it has in 50 years. It's going to be cool, and let's focus on the cool and not just all that's wrong with the world. That's it. Happy to move
Thank you.
the item.
We'll wait
It's
till the
appropriate.
public talks and you can do.
Sure.
Public that wanted to talk on this item is the ordinance. Line on up, because we're not going to wait all night.
I'm here to defend myself and my mother. She's not here. I defend me and my mother. We are homeless. We've been homeless for a year already due to abandonment and domestic violence to my father. And how I want the process for getting a house to be handled correctly. I could come to you as saying of a complaint for I would say mental abuse, because of how Dorothy's would be working with my mother. Mental abuse as in door peace, wherever it is, house of peace, taking my mom's her bed, her what have you, hygiene stuff, just taking it right away after saying it, here you go, and everything. Doing that to not only her but me also, by just wiggling the house right in front of us and not having to get it right away. It's already been a year. I don't like how the city has the resources going, we have not been helped. It's already been a year. I would like to have some knowledge of why the city has these programs working like this, if it's not benefiting us. I want to know what was the problem, what's going on, what's going to be resolved from this, because I would say me and my mother have almost been killed twice out here. It's not funny. Imagine just having to be out here with your child and not having to have no resources or nothing. It's just a lot of things, lots of problems that could be helped. I do miss having a bed. I just really hope, and I want to more or less understand why these programs are working like this. It's foul. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here and for having me and my little group here. I try to bring more. But anyway, just like she said, we're willing to, work with the city. I understand you're going to try the ordinance again. Okay, we see that. Okay, Chinatown's getting cleaner, but still we got the same problem. Where are you planning to put in everybody? Just like she said, you guys give out grants for all this. Okay, why is it none of us? It's only the people that they pick in that program. They ain't helping nobody out there. None of us. So what's being resolved? We're all willing to work with you guys. Well, when are you going to start working with us? Look at all this money is being wasted. Everybody's complaining about money. Money's just being thrown down the drain. Let's all work together and find a solution. Find a solution that's going to work for us and for you guys. Thank you.
Good evening. Greg Bankston, resident of Salinas, District 3. Except I'm freshly homeless, street-level homeless, but I went straight to the temp agency. They had me a interview for tomorrow, but I got my Brooks Brothers suit. Got to figure out where to store it. Where am I going to iron stuff? Where am I going to? There's the gap that this ordinance can cover that can help people make that leap. I want to pay taxes. I want to be a taxpayer, because then I'll come up here to the podium and talk even more. But I know, thanks to Chief Frise and Deputy Chief Shaw, the police are here. I feel safe with them protecting me. They can't cover everything. There's dark nooks and crannies. I feel bad for the people that don't have the support of interim that I do. That, man, fantastic. And I'm glad you guys all have these fantastic ears and hearts. I'm going to report back on the job. I'm going to get it one way or another. But think about the people that are even more vulnerable than me. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Attorney, and members of the City Council again. I'm Sloan Rosenthal with the law firm of Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, and along with several of my colleagues, I represent a number of unsheltered individuals in Salinas. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and acknowledge Councilmember McShane's comment that in many ways an up or down vote would be cleaner, but we wanted to address a few specific policy concerns within the ordinance that we think would make it both more legally sound and a more easily implementable policy for the city. In particular, I wanted to address the definition of available overnight shelter in the ordinance. The current definition is not clearly implementable, particularly for homeless individuals who are seeking shelter on any given day. Short of going and actually knocking on the door of every shelter in Salinas, it's not clear under the ordinance how someone would determine whether a shelter bed was available and how a police officer enforcing the ordinance and issuing a camping citation would know whether shelters are available without doing, for example, a daily census, again, only obtainable by going and knocking on every door. Likewise, the definition as it's currently stated in the ordinance doesn't acknowledge that we have many individuals who have difficulty accessing shelters because they have disabilities, they require service animals, because staying in a shelter would require storing their belongings in a place they don't have, because it would require them to be separated from family members, and other considerations. So we would urge the council to consider, as it considers potentially revising the draft ordinance, to clarify this definition as it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Attorney, City Council members. My name is Elizabeth Dooley, and I, along with Sloan Rosenthal, also represent some unsheltered individuals who are residents of the city of Salinas. I also want to just touch briefly on a few elements of the ordinance that we think are legally problematic and potentially problematic from a policy perspective as well. The first of those is just that, as written, the way that the definition of unlawful camping is written, it's so broad that it doesn't meet the constitutional requirements that if you're gonna make something a crime, the law has to be written clearly enough to allow ordinary people to understand what conduct is a crime. And some of the definitions right now in the camping ordinance define camp paraphernalia, for example, as including tarps. And then it says it's a misdemeanor, i.e. a crime, to use camp paraphernalia. Now, the problem with that is that if you're sitting at your kid's soccer game and you're using a tarp to have shade, technically that's going to violate the letter of the law here. Now, we all know that that's not what this is intended for, but in terms of how it's written, that does go ahead and violate the law. The other point that we just wanted to raise briefly is in terms of the sweeps. We've had a lot of conversations with our clients as well as the city, and we understand the need to do these sweeps and to have cleanups, but we also understand that it's difficult sometimes for our clients to get full information on when that will occur. They don't have email like many of us do, and so we ask respectfully that you consider having sweeps be on a consistent day, say of the month, or every 2 weeks, or the third Thursday of the month, but just to maintain that consistency so that folks know when to get out of the way. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Ken Steen, Salinas City Center Improvement Association. Excuse me. This ordinance is about no camping. What we've requested, and you have our October 5th letter, is a request to be excluded downtown, the downtown district to be excluded from the ordinance so that there is no camping at all in our downtown district. The way it's written right now, there's a lot of 300-foot parameters where you have to stay at least 300 feet away from public buildings. Well, take a look at that. City Hall, Rec Center, library, parking lots, schools, all of that falls within our district. So I don't know where you'd be able to camp anyway. However, I would like to point out that we have folks sleeping in doorways and alcoves every day. We don't have 24/7 security yet, but every day we have to see if these folks can be relocated. Some of them cause problems, some don't. Others need help. We have compassion for the homeless, but we also care about the properties downtown. We have 130 property owners and 217 properties in the district. So what I would ask you to do is exempt us from this ordinance so there is no camping in the downtown district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Wes White, Salinas resident, president of the Salinas Homeless Union. Part of this ordinance that I noticed in here has got feces, and it mentions City Hall very, very at the top of the list. I mean, you guys are kind of pointing me out and the protests that we had in front of there for 6 months. And it was a lot cleaner than what you're putting this out to be. And I would say that this is also highly discriminatory, stereotypical language to create an atmosphere of open discrimination. 7 to 7 is an interesting notion if they're only doing it once a month, but this is going to be targeted. Hey, guess what? You're here. You don't belong here. So now we're going to invoke our deal, not just once a month, but just as soon as we find you. It's the daytime. Now we got you. Well, okay, that's nice, but we just can't afford it. So you can't just knock people off the face of the earth. The 7 to 7 is still, it's better than nothing. At least there's some sanity overnight. I appreciate that, and thank you for that. But I think the intention goes behind this attitude I was talking about earlier, and it's still highly prevalent and present, and we need to work through that kind of conversation to where we're not blanket discriminate against people for the wrong reasons, just being negative for negative's sake, because that's how we deal with issues. Almost everybody that we're talking about ends up being people we don't even know, and we don't know their backstory. We don't even want to know, and that's really the compassion piece of how we treat people. That's the problem, and we need to just start being more inclusive. There's more people on this planet than we even know. And realize there's plenty of space for them too. It doesn't have to be as ritzy or glamorous. There's a lot of people just willing to suffer with what they got, and they're satisfied with what they got, and that's being happy in life. But we gotta stop putting in these kind of draconian laws, because I think, and I saw another piece in there too, with the private properties now, you're offering a service to evict people out, and I'm almost wondering if you're gonna end up charging people that directly. Right now it's not that way, but I see that coming too.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Name is Eric Peterson, and I've mentioned some of these things before. We really need to end our war on the homeless and look towards a long-range solution. It won't be that difficult. Other places do it, and we certainly can too. I've cited Salt Lake City many times here. Went from 3,000 homeless to 400. Number one, they cared. Number two, they housed people, then dealt with issues, if there were any. When I was homeless, I didn't have any issues besides not having enough money. I didn't have substance problems or anything. Salt Lake City, housed first. Their housing wasn't much more than the car I lived in, except it had bathrooms, except they had bathrooms in Salt Lake City. It isn't that difficult. It will take some prodding of Monterey County, and what that prodding will be, it could be interesting. Saturday, I was able to visit some of the places where I parked when I lived in my car. It was kind of nice reminiscing and pointing out to a longtime friend, this and that. And I didn't leave a mess. I took care of myself. A lot of homeless people are like I was. I just didn't have enough money. And rather than be a drain on somebody, I moved into my car for a year. I'm quite happy I did. It was a very good year. I didn't like the neighbors I moved. And I'm sure there are many, many others who are in similar situations to what I was. And fortunately, I didn't get hassled at all. Maybe it's because of where I parked. I'm pretty sure it was. But we need to support our homeless community and look for long-term solutions. And as I said a moment ago, it won't be that difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Anna. I am a MSW student intern at the Chinatown Community Learning Center. I'm also a resident of Salinas. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself to the City Council, as well as kind of point out some facts about the sweeps. So it is a proven fact, and I think as a service provider, I can also speak to this, that conducting sweeps does not push people into services. It pushes them away from services, and it makes them service wary. So, just hoping that you take that into consideration. If the intention of the sweep is to push people into services, it's not doing its job. But at the same time, one hope is that what I'm doing at the Learning Center can help to change the public's opinion of homeless individuals and actually see them as people and not just a nuisance and not just a pile of blankets on the ground or a needle on the ground, but actually a human who has needs and breathes and heart pumps just like us. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councilmember McShane, are you ready?
Well, yeah, sure. I'm happy to move the item.
Second.
I tell people that if you're looking for something complex, challenging, and heart-wrenching, it's not novellas or daytime television. It's homelessness, and homelessness in Salinas. This is not an easy topic, and it's probably one of our most pressing that the city faces. To SCCIA, the faith community, homeless individuals, advocates, we're listening. This is proactive. I was remarking before this meeting, and this goes to Michael's diligence on this and our city attorney. There's a lot of work that's gone into this, and the city attorney's office has done a good job to keep us informed on it. And I guess if I could very quickly say to the public, we want to hear from you. The only way this gets better is by having very committed and very articulate partners, whether it be SCCIA or the center or WES or others. So, yeah, happy to move the item, Mr. Mayor.
Well, now that you've made your comments, I have to reopen it for the rest of the council. Does anybody else want to comment on this issue?
Well, Mr. Mayor, being that we had two attorneys discussing this matter, I would like to ask our legal counsel, because, we were told that there's broad statements in the report that you gave us, so I would like to hear from our legal counsel. Where do we stand on that?
Can you ask a specific question?
Yes.
I'm happy to answer whatever you...
The specific questions that the two attorneys asked, I would like to have you answer that.
Well, one of the attorneys, Ms. Rosenthal, specifically discussed the availability of overnight shelters and overnight shelter beds. She discussed that there's nothing in the ordinance that specifically dictates how one is to find out whether there is an overnight shelter bed open. That applying to both homeless individuals and to the enforcement officers. We are in the process of working on a system by which officers can understand whether shelter beds are open. The policy as envisioned would be for officers to give homeless individuals the option to be taken to those shelter beds prior to being cited under this ordinance, and then of course not to cite anyone who is lawfully camping, which would be camping when there is no available shelter bed. She also discussed several other issues. Service animals, if it is a legitimate service animal, then it shouldn't pose any issue to getting into a shelter. If it's a pet or something like that, then it may pose a problem, and that's a decision an individual is going to have to make. Also, the storage of belongings. Again, the ordinance is set forth so that people can store a reasonable amount of belongings. It's set forth so they can store the amount of belongings that they could, in most instances, bring into a shelter, but a person may not be able to bring in the amount of belongings that could be stored in a 6-bedroom house into a shelter. And again, those are decisions they're going to have to make. The entirety of the ordinance was geared towards giving people the opportunity to have what they need and to give the residents of the city the opportunity to use those areas in a clean, safe manner. Ms. Dooley discussed the definition of unlawful camping. Unlawful camping is clearly defined. There are a number of things that you cannot use. I can go into it in minutia if you want me to.
No. You know where I'm concerned, and I think there's passion all around, but Councilmember McShane, the people I'm really concerned is about the merchants. However this sounds, I took a walk down yesterday, and there was a gentleman that owns a Mexican restaurant out there, and there was feces in the side of his business there. And I mean, think about it. You're coming in to eat, and you see this. It's a serious issue, and
Open the bathrooms in the parks.
I just hope that as a council, like you said, that we do support our businesses as well. Thank you.
City Clerk.
Councilmember Barrera?
No.
Councilmember Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember McShane?
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
Mayor Gunter?
Yes.
Thank you.